The importance of recognizing how to set yourself up to win in terms of abundance and prosperity is about really taking true responsibility over your day, taking a real inventory as to what you do throughout the day, how you do it, and being intentional about making sure that you are aligning with the version of yourself that you desire to be, which I believe is your true self. My name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant. I was recently asked by someone who wanted to know my personal practices on abundance and prosperity. And so what I decided to do was, even though I don't find myself to be very interesting as far as my routine, but some people, when I say that to them, they say, no, you're very interesting, right? And they want to know certain things about my life and what it is that I'm doing. And so what I want to do today is share with you just how I think through the day, how I plan my day, how I process my day, and the practices, rituals, routines that I have throughout the day or periodically once in a while where I purposely align myself to be really in a space of receiving true abundance and creating the prosperity that I desire. So first off, let's just say this: abundance to me and prosperity are two different things, right? Now, prosperity leans more into the financial aspects, right? The money, the wealth, the materialistic things. Abundance to me, though it can relate and definitely influences prosperity, is more of the spiritual understanding that you have everything available to you, right? That I have available to me the infinite wisdom of the universe, right? Of infinite intelligence, right? The source, God. And so you can use abundance to actually get you to a point of aligning your frequency with one of prosperity, like having prosperity, experiencing prosperity. So for me, I have gone from that space of dialing into my abundance. This is why I call myself Peter Abundant, Dr. Abundant, is because I recognize that abundance and being abundant is at the core of who I am. If I had to pick one word to captivate my existence, right? And your existence as well, we are all abundant. So, with that, though, my growth and my trajectory along this path is, yes, recognizing the spiritual connection between all things and recognizing and seeing myself in everything, recognizing that we are all one, right? Everything is one thing. But then a point where you understand that. And then what does that look like throughout your life? How does that influence? How does that express itself out throughout your life? And for me, I'm taking the journey of really recognizing that I want my finances to be set up a certain way. I want my family, my children to actually have the wealth and actually have the type of abundance where they don't have to worry about survival. They don't have to worry about bills. They don't have to worry about, simply just making it through. And so now I am getting to a point where I am using the laws of abundance and the metaphysical laws of, the law of attraction and the law of assumption and those things to actually create the finances, to put it aside and create the lifestyle that I desire, but also the lifestyle that I feel like my family and my lineage deserves. You see? So when it comes to this question, it's really, a very multi-layered question, and I'm going to give it to you, a multi-layered answer as simple as possible. But essentially at this point in my life, my entire life is dedicated to abundance and prosperity. That's what I've been focusing on now, right? In this moment in life. There are different phases throughout life where, if you're a kid, you're just living, you're just absorbing. When you become a teenager, you're kind of going through this awkward phase. You're trying to figure out life. You're trying to figure out yourself, and then as a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, then you are trying to basically create a life that you think that you're supposed to have, usually what society is telling you you're supposed to have. And then when you hit your 40s and 50s, you're realizing, oh, that's all bull. I actually can create the life that I truly desire. based on what I truly want. And then you kind of go to a different phase, right? And so I'm in my 40s. I just turned 48. And so for me, it is the recognition of recognizing that, hey, I want particular things that is custom for me, that is important for me. And no matter what or no matter who agrees or disagrees, this is what I'm going to create for myself, right? So that's essentially how things, the intention and how the groundwork is laid for me right now during this phase, right? And so I want to start out basically with just running through my day. I thought about doing this as a blog format, but I used to do blogs years ago, and I just feel more connected with just speaking to you like this. So usually I wake up anywhere, it can, depending on what I'm doing in the morning, anywhere between 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m. Now, when I get up at 4 a.m., that's when I'm getting up to go do a workout. I'm usually going for a run. I used to do, hard, heavy weightlifting, things like that, CrossFit. Now I've been really focused on running. So about 4 a.m., 4:30, sometimes 5, I get up, I go run. And at this point, running, you'll find that throughout this, me explaining my processes, how exactly everything links together, right? Things are not isolated by themselves. So even when I am talking about running, it definitely relates to abundance and prosperity. So make sure you understand and you take that into consideration as I talk. Though you may say, what does that have to do with prosperity? Understand that it has everything to do with prosperity, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. So I run in the morning. When I get home from the run, lately I've been doing like 8-mile runs. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like I'm the most efficient, best runner out there. A lot of times my runs consist of mostly running, sometimes walking. Okay. But I'm not really caught up into, how fast I run. For me, it's all about the distance, right? Let's just do 8 miles one way or another. All right. So I'll, decide, okay, today I'm going to run 8 miles. Saturday, I'm going to run 10 miles. Depending on how I feel, I may do some walking. Now, the thing about the running for me is the running comes in everything related to health is pertaining to looking at your body as a temple. Okay. Looking at your body as a vehicle, as a machine. All right. And it is a machine, a temple that is designed to house your consciousness, right? Your spiritual self, the essence of who you are. Now, it is a machine. It is a temple. It is something that has a purpose. Okay. So keep that in mind. When I wake up in the morning and I go do my run, I don't listen to music anymore. I used to do that. And then I transitioned into listening to audiobooks or lectures because it will have me in a space where, sometimes you hear when people talk about running, they are compare it to meditation. And then you have those meditation gurus who will, argue against that. It's not meditation. And it's like, hey man, let people have what they need to get them through, right? To really tap into themselves. If it's sitting, being still and observing your thoughts, great. If it is running 8 miles, 12 miles, great. Okay. But there is a meditative element in running for sure. There is a moment where you start off the run and it is work, right? You're pushing yourself, you're challenging your willpower, you're having this conversation, this dialogue between your conscious mind, which wants to be healthy, your subconscious mind and your ego. And your ego is like, why are we doing this? This hurts. I don't want to do this. Fitness is most definitely a spiritual exercise. That's what I want you to understand as well. Okay. Because you are constantly having a conversation, a back and forth between the part of you that knows better and the part of you that wants to be lazy. And every time you go for another rep, every time you take another step on that jog, right, you are winning. You are building yourself up. You are building the confidence. You are building the understanding as to your ability to push through the discomfort to get something that you really want. So at this point, when it comes to running, I don't even play anything. I don't even put headphones in my ears anymore. Because what I like to do is I like to make it an opportunity for me to go within, meaning I'm having conversations with myself about various topics and various talks, okay? Various things that I've heard. And I'm spending an hour, 2 hours within my own mind having these conversations. So a lot of times when I'm, sharing with you content, I'm making videos, I'm writing blogs, I'm writing a book, it is because I'm able to concentrate just a simple thought and expand upon that and really put it down or really have it in my mind in a way that can have a conversation. I can talk to you about it for 30 minutes to an hour, you see, and it allows me to expand my consciousness. Okay. So lately, as I've been really sitting and thinking about prosperity and wealth building, and of course, backed by the spiritual principles, it has been a big conversation within my own self. And that is very important. So for some people, it is going for a run. For some people, it is just spending time in your car. But what I want you to understand is that you must make time to just sit and contemplate ideas and concepts of the things that you desire and you want. Because even though it may seem daunting, because right now you may identify only the problem, right? Only the thing that you do not desire, which is the current situation, most likely, you want to focus on processing through it, walking through it, because your mind is powerful. Your conscious, super conscious mind is most powerful. And as long as your mind is open and receptive, you're going to get ideas. You're going to download insight that is going to help you to get out of the current situation, which you don't want, and get you into the situation that you do desire. And so when I run, that is my intention. It is with the intention of cultivating and keeping my body strong, right? Keeping my body healthy, keeping my temple right. Okay. Maintaining it, making sure the structure of my temple is intact, is strong, right? And, understanding that when I'm processing through these thoughts, I'm allowing my consciousness to grow, to expand, to awaken, so to speak. Okay. So when I come back from my run in the morning, or sometimes the run is in the afternoon, right? Depending on the season. If it's winter, usually my run's in the afternoon because sometimes I'm just not at a space where I can handle the cold. Sometimes I'm all in and I'm just going through the cold anyway. But when it is summer, I'm usually first thing in the morning because it's cooler. I'm somebody who gets really hot. I sweat a lot, so I don't want to overheat. So when I get back from my run, the first thing I do is hop in the shower, of course, and then I make me a fresh juice. I'm big on juicing right now. Juicing is something I do in the morning ritualistically, like every morning. Some people will batch juice where they make, like on a Sunday, they make all the juices for the whole week. Now, that's great and that's very productive and it's very efficient. But for me, rituals are important. Daily activity, daily rituals are very important to me because it keeps it ingrained. And the more you do something, the more it becomes a habit. So for me, doing it every day is something that I just love doing. So I run, come home, shower, of course, do my morning juice, okay? And I will make enough for myself and then make some for my son. And when I make my morning juice, I am listening to some good upbeat music. It could be Afro beats, it could be Afro house, it could be some kind of house music, upbeat, right? I want the rhythm, I want beats, I want happiness, I want vibes, okay? That relates to the frequency. I don't know if you're familiar with the hidden messages in water, where Japanese scientists discovered that what you say, the music you play affects the microscopic, the water. It changes the frequency of water. Okay. And you are more than 75% water, right? I am more than 75% water. And so playing certain kinds of music that's upbeat, that doesn't have a lot of negative words or cursing or violence, but things that are upbeat, make you feel good, that is going to affect your health, right? So I am again coming back from a run, cleansing myself, right? Taking a shower. I am consuming juice, fresh juices, right? I'm not eating any heavy breakfasts anymore. I don't do that anymore. Rarely will I have me like a heavy breakfast, but usually it's just juice, right? And then I'll have juice even in the afternoon. So I'll juice in the morning and then I'll juice in the afternoon. Okay. Now, mind you, let me get into my diet. I am a vegan. So I do not consume any animal products whatsoever. I've been a vegan for over 10 years now. So my health is very important to me, but also the imprint that I leave in the world, right? In the universe is very important to me. So I decided to actually get into veganism for health reasons, for fitness reasons. Originally, when I got into CrossFit, I wanted to lean down. I wanted to get as clean as possible. I've been vegetarian for maybe 30 years, right? Total. The last of those 30 years has been veganism. And so once I started that journey of veganism and I got into the research of it, I recognized that it was important for the environment. And from a place of spirituality, I recognized it was important also for compassion and love for animals. And I did not want to contribute to the suffering of others. And so veganism was the alignment, right, that I needed to really recognize my connection to other things and not consuming violence, right? So that's another thing. Be mindful about what you're consuming, because what it does is it creates blockages, right? First off, it creates unhealth in your body. And then if you're unhealthy, you're not likely to move certain ways. You're not likely to be, inspired. You're not likely to have a strong will. You're not likely to be disciplined. That translates over into prosperity and abundance because you're not likely to see the opportunities when they come. You're not likely to connect with people in certain ways because they pick up on that. You know, it may sound funny, but even as a vegan, I notice when animals come and approach me, and I notice that they are more receptive to me than other people. There's been plenty of times I will go to people's homes and they will say something like, wow, like my cat or my dog never comes up to somebody the first time they meets them, right? And I'm like, well, okay. And I joke and I say, oh, it's because I'm vegan. So they know that my intention is never to hurt them. Animals know when people have a negative frequency about them or a violent, energy or a violent frequency within them, right? You may not be violent yourself, but if you're consuming meats, if you're consuming animal products, that represents violence. You see, this is not a lecture on veganism. I'm just telling you my process and how I think through these things and how it relates to prosperity. So I am vegan. I juice in the morning and the afternoon. Now, this isn't like foolproof, bulletproof. This is most days. This is most of my life. This is a mostly situation. And then in the evening, I would have me one meal. So I usually eat one meal a day. Okay. Usually. Sometimes if I'm home all day or if I had a hard workout the day before, usually I'm more hungry the next day. So I might eat or I might snack in the afternoon and then have me a nice big meal in the evening. You may ask, okay, so you're vegan. What do you eat? Fruits and vegetables, man. Fruits and vegetables. Lately, I've been doing a lot of nuts with dates, easy things. It's not really hard. I'm very simple. I'm not complicated into all the crazy recipes. Sometimes if it's a special occasion, I'll make something cool and fun. I used to be somebody that was really big into like vegan burgers, impossible burgers, things of that nature. I am slowly weaning myself off of those things. I realize that even while being vegan, if I'm eating those things a lot, I will hold on to the weight, you see. And the more or the less processed the food, the more whole food, the whole base food it is, meaning, not changed. They're basically at its natural state, right? So you go to the store, you get a broccoli, you eat that broccoli, right? So I shop mostly in the produce aisle. I used to get a lot of like almond milks and things like that. My son used to eat a lot of cereal, but we stopped doing that too. I usually now I'm getting into making my own milks, okay, which is very simple to do. So, and very, very cost effective. Now, how does this relate to prosperity? Again, it relates in prosperity to productivity. It relates to prosperity in terms of I'm a firm believer that health is the foundation of everything. If you're not healthy mentally, you're not going to have good exchanges with people. You're not going to have good relationships. If you're not healthy emotionally, you most certainly won't have good exchanges with people and good experiences as far as moving and how to adapt and how to respond to certain situations. If you're not healthy physically, you're not going to want to do anything, right? Because your physical body, your machine is not efficient, right? It is not at its optimal level. And so all those things relate to prosperity. If you're not able to think clearly, you're not going to make the best moves and decisions. You're not going to be productive in creating the things that you feel are valuable to other people, right? In order to say, sell something, in order to say, write a book, right? In order to come up with $1 million idea, right? If you're not well emotionally, right, spiritually, then you're not able to move and identify that everything is an opportunity. Okay. If you're not physically healthy, if you're not taking care of your temple, then your consciousness is not in a capsule that allows it to express itself the best. All right. And that's what the physical body is. Your physical body is a vessel. It is your first means of manifestation, expression out into the universe. So if you're not aligning yourself properly with those things, then it's not going to stop per se your happiness or your manifestation ability or your ability to be prosperous, because we can look around and see that, a lot of the richest people are sometimes the most unhealthy, but the question is, are they happy? Do they look happy? And most times they do not. They look uncomfortable. They look miserable, right? So you can say, yeah, well, they're rich. I don't know if I would trade riches for physical health, right? I'm sure I would not. Okay. So the thing is, you have to be mindful about that. Build your base and build it on your health. The physical health is the easiest thing, but the physical health, when you cultivate that, it will spill over into emotional health. It will spill over into spiritual health and mental health as well. All right. So that's usually what my morning looks like. Now, during a day, this is my main ritual, and it is something that I've always been able to do, not realizing that, okay, either this is a gift or this is just something that I was equipped with or learned. But as a kid, I was always a shy kid. And one of the things, one of my, most fondest or clearest memories with my dad, is that whenever I wanted to do something or get involved with something he and the other adults were doing, he would always tell me, just watch, just watch. And as a kid, I hated it. But what it allowed me to do is to observe and to analyze and to think things through. So one, it equipped me with the skill of being able to look at something and be able to mimic it or figure it out quicker. But two, it allowed me the ability to sit with my own thoughts and think things through, okay? Process my feelings and think things through. So what that has done for me was it would give me or cultivate a skill within me where I can do what I call a self-check-in or a scan, where I consistently throughout the day will scan myself emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I would scan and pay attention and listen to how I feel, pay attention to the thoughts that I'm having in my mind. This sounds like a very simple thing. It doesn't sound complicated at all, I'm sure. But what I want you to understand, it is the most powerful thing that you can do. It relates to self-awareness, essentially. The more you spend time with practicing how to be aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what's going on with you at that moment, it will give you the insight to then think about what it is that you want to feel. You see, being and feeling a certain way is great. Like recognizing how you feel is great, but you must connect that to how you desire to feel. You see, many people don't really like hearing this, but how you feel is a decision. Now, yes, there are lots of things that can influence that decision. But when you recognize that it is a decision, then you own the power over all of those influences, you know? And don't get me wrong, I have my times where I'm annoyed, I am frustrated, right? And I don't want to be bothered. But when I have those feelings, those negative emotions, they are very fast to go away. Like they go away so fast because I am able to take ownership of those feelings, those thoughts. I can recognize them so fast. And when I recognize them that fast, I immediately go to, I don't want to feel this way. So I'm going to decide to feel this way. Now you may ask, okay, how do you just switch from a negative feeling of being angry to a feeling of being happy? Well, you just find those anchors or references or those influences, right? Just like something may have influenced you, pull the trigger for you to actually feel angry. Well, you can find something, think of something that's going to shift you towards happiness. Okay. I'm at a point now where I don't need, say, to think about a memory, where I can just simply, because I'm so entrenched in my spiritual process and spiritual principles, that all I got to do is recognize I am one with everything. I am one with God. I am an expression of God. What is more positive, happy, joyful than that? So when I get into that space, all of the negativity just kind of falls away. You see, it dissolves, it goes away. So my process is one of really practicing self-awareness, doing these scans, these check-ins with myself all throughout the day. I mean, when I get in my car, before I start it, how do I feel? All right. While I'm driving, how do I feel? When I get out of the car, how do I feel? Before I speak to somebody, how do I feel? After I speak to somebody, how do I feel? The inner dialogue that's happening in my mind is one of constantly checking in and asking myself, how do I feel? And then affirming how I want to feel and deciding that for myself, you see? So as it relates to prosperity, if I am a little bit stressed about bills, am I thinking about, I don't like how much money I have in my account, I want to have more? Well, it is really recognizing that not to focus on the negative, right? Focus on the desire. And so my practice is being in alignment with the frequency of financial prosperity and abundance. Okay. Saying affirmations, something as simple as I am rich, I am rich, I am rich. As you are saying that, say you're driving in your car, turn down the music, say those affirmations out loud or within in your head, and then just visualize it. You're driving a car. Visualize you driving the car that you really want to drive, that you desire, right? What is that car, right? Visualize you're driving not to the job that you may not like, but maybe to the business that you have created that's growing, that's just enormous and successful, right? Visualize yourself in the mundane things actually doing the fantastic, amazing things. Creating that in your mind as your reality, matching the frequency of the future self that is actually experiencing that thing. That's what we're talking about. So you are constantly living in a space where you want to align yourself with your desires, even though your desire in your ego's mind may feel far away or it isn't here yet, right? You want to continuously do these check-ins, ask yourself how you feel, and then ask yourself or get clear as to how you want to feel, right? And then as you are going through your day, right, you're visualizing and matching the frequency of the future self you want to align with. And that's how I spend my day, right? That's my main practice and ritual. And then as I am thinking about that and aligning myself with that frequency, I am also receiving information, downloads as to how I can align with that even more. All right, what do I need to do? How do I need to market? Right? What products do I think are going to be valuable for people? And so I came up with this book, The Future Frequency, right? The Future Self Frequency books. And so I know that that is a valuable thing, an asset that I can give and contribute to people, to society, to the world, to the universe, as far as how to match up and align with the version of themselves that has it all. You see? And I'm using the same principles throughout my days, right? So you really want to be responsible for those things. You want to, for myself, as I'm going through my days, I'm spending my days and running my errands. At the end of the day, I come to a place where it's like, okay, what am I going to do to actually contribute? Like, what am my video going to be like today? What is, am I going to do any writing today as far as books? Am I going to do any lives today? Like, where am I at as far as am I going to contribute? How am I going to add value to other people? Because prosperity is an exchange, okay? But what I want you to understand is that you're not giving away. You're not like sacrificing yourself, hoping that you gain something back. You are understanding that karma is a real thing. You are understanding that the oneness of all things is a real thing. So you are giving to yourself when you give value to others, when you make as many videos as you can, when you try to write as many books as you can. Even though you may see, oh, this is not growing as fast as I want, you have to trust in the process of karma. Okay. You have to trust in the process of reciprocity and understanding that the more you put out there, you're giving it to yourself. So you must look at the value and the joy of doing it. But you must understand that you are constantly, when you are growing and intentionally creating prosperity, and you are creating something that people can exchange monetary value for, right? That you are making sure that, hey, this is something that brings me joy by doing it, but it also is valuable and will make a shift in your life as well, But it's interesting because they are separate, meaning the person, the individual, in terms of their consciousness, like they are able to do whatever they want to do with their life. But you are also recognizing from your point of view, from your consciousness, they are you. Okay. So you understand that this oneness is really an investment within yourself. And that investment will always yield dividends and profits and revenue. Okay. Just continue moving forward. The way you continue moving forward is by recognizing and understanding the importance of recognizing that you must have a good time doing it, right? You must just enjoy doing it. And eventually it'll definitely give you the results that you want. So essentially, those are my practices. And then at the end of the day, I may do another workout depending on how I feel, some quick weightlifting, spend time with my son. We chill, we watch anime. Me and him may have conversations. He'll ask me about money, prosperity, different things. We'll talk about it. But all these things have an intention behind them. I don't do anything that I can't identify meets or matches what it is that I want to create in my life. Sometimes I'll, be someplace, or I'll maybe be at somebody's home or watch a movie or something like that. And then I'll ask myself, like, how is this helping me to achieve my goal, my aspirations, my purpose? And if I can't think of anything, I'm out of there. I either stop having a conversation. I either keep moving, tries to do something different, turn off the TV or change the, what's on a computer and just get into what it is that I want to do. Right. So you have to be intentional. Now, sometimes I'm not saying like you can't go to the park and just have a good time with your friends, or, on weekends, I like to, hang out with my lady and we go places and we do things and we go eat things, right? Eat vegan food, find vegan restaurants, go to events. Those things are important because one, I'm cultivating my relationship with my significant other, whom is on the same journey, right? So it's important to meet and hang out with people who are on the same journey with you, right? As far as desires and aspirations go. So that's important and that's imperative, you know, with your own kids. If you have a goal, a desire, you should be making sure that your kid knows that, right? That you communicate and you kind of even brainstorm and include the kid in there a little bit. Don't make the kid a part of it unless they want to be, but show your children that you have aspirations, goals, dreams, and that you are pursuing it. So that way they know what that looks like. They know that for themselves, when they get to a point of recognizing what they want to do with their lives, that they know to pursue it and not just go with the mundane ways of living, this cliche life, of just the basic square cookie cutter existence. So be mindful about all of your interactions, all of what you're doing. Ask yourself, how does it relate to what you desire to create in life? If you're doing a whole bunch of things that do not meet or match what it is you desire, you are slowing down the process of you manifesting that thing. You are essentially pushing that thing further and further away from you. But if you are constantly making sure everything that you do has something to do with your desire, that desire for sure, will materialize itself before you know it. You know what I mean? So essentially those are my routines. And I know that was kind of a long roundabout way, kind of walking you through my life, but essentially that's how I live my life, and that's how I essentially create what it is that I wish to share with the world and how I wish to use that to monetize and create a life of prosperity, of joy, of wealth, and live in my abundance and express that abundance in a particular way. You see? So this is my journey. This is where I am right now. All of these things relate to the Future Self Frequency, the book, and the My Future Self Journal. If you're interested, you can go down below in the link. You can go to the website, Future Self Frequency. You can buy the book. I just put up the digital ebook version of the Future Self Frequency. But of course, the journal, you want to get that paperback. Okay. You got to get it on paperback because writing in it, drawing in it is the part of it that makes it, so powerful and profound. Okay. So make sure you check out the futureselffrequency.com website. You look at the products there. There are going to be some more products coming, but I want to make it simple and I don't want it to be too confusing for people. But I have a lot of ideas coming and I'm looking forward to launching all of them eventually over time. So I thank you so much for watching, for listening. If you have any questions, any thoughts, please leave it below in the comments. And also, if you're really interested and you're like kind of reluctant and you're like, I don't know if I want to pick up this book, The Future Self Frequency, if you go to drabundant.com and subscribe to my daily newsletter, you actually get the first chapter of the Deluxe Transformation Edition for free. Okay. Chapter 1 you get for free and you'll see that you definitely have to get this book. All right. Thank you again. Peace and abundance always.